President Trump in the recent NATO summit in Ankara was certainly much more engaged and friendly with your President Zelensky than we've seen in past meetings. I'd say the most that we've seen. The promise to provide licenses to deal with, on the Patriot interceptors, which would help to address this vulnerability you're talking about, it seems that we're quite far from actually operationalizing that. Was that actually a significant change in policy from the U.S.?
Yes, it's a big change in policy. And in that sense, Trump is going much further than President Biden did. And, I appreciate what President Biden did for Ukraine, no doubt about that. But I was in the room when Ukraine raised the licensing issue for the first time with President Biden. And that was December 2023. And it's been, 2.5 years. So if we presume that it takes at least 2 years to build a factory, to put it in production, to address all the bottlenecks when it comes to the supply, to the supplies, I think it's a big political breakthrough. It's a strategically important development, but it doesn't solve the problem. Because I think in general, the solution will not be in providing Ukraine with any specific type of weapon, but in developing an ecosystem of air defenses where Patriot missiles will be playing their role, but Ukraine will also have its own anti-ballistic missile. And of course, we will have to offer many more local solutions for air defenses. There is not one single, wonder weapon that can solve our problem. We need to address the issue in its complexity.
It does seem, though, that more broadly, the crisis that we saw Zelensky walk into and out of at the White House a year ago in April, when Trump said he didn't have the cards.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III.
We seem to be in a very different environment today in the NATO summit in Ankara, where the Americans and the Europeans, maybe not equally frustrated with Putin, but certainly frustrated with Putin, blaming the Russians more for not ending the war than Trump had been blaming Zelensky. Do you think that's accurate? And do you see NATO policy as pretty coordinated in support of Ukraine right now?
I believe one problem is to make President Trump change his mind and align with European view and Ukrainian view of the war. But it's a different level of problem to make President Trump sustain his position on the matter. And Zelensky and other European leaders should be commended, including just NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, for spending a year and a half basically placating Trump, but in the end taking him to to the safe port. But how to keep him there? This is the question. And I think it will be a big question for them, and they will be spending a lot of energy on solving it, on answering it.
If Putin ends up in a much worse position over time, and he starts to feel the need to lash out as a consequence, to escalate, do you think that the potential of that escalation is growing into actual NATO states, not just Ukraine itself? We hear a lot about this from some advisors around Putin. We certainly haven't heard Putin make those threats directly.
Yeah, I think it's a plausible scenario. But whether he will actually resort to it, that's another question. Because if you look at him, like, what kind of options does he have? What kind of cards does he have in his hands? Technological breakthrough. He can instruct his engineers to come up with new solutions to both attack Ukraine and defend Russia from Ukrainian attacks. Mobilization, more cannon fodder, And the third one is changing the tactics, smarter generals, smarter officers on the ground, more efficient combat. The fourth one is actually attack against a NATO ally. And the fifth one is nuclear. So I think he will be playing with the first four while threatening from time to time the fifth. And these five elements or these five cards will constitute his strategy basically for the months to come, if not years.